Are we recording?
Yes.
Are we recording? I feel totally natural and normal. Well, we have a very, very special guest, Daniel.
Indeed.
Can you guess who it is? Do you want to just go straight into it? How are you going to introduce? Are you going to say Paddy Cusack, a.k.a. Pete Briquette? How do you want to be introduced?
Whatever,
Pete Briquette,
yeah.
whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
Whatever?
I don't... Yeah, you can call me what, just if you want.
Okay, go on then. Give it a go and see what happens.
All right, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to And That's Why We're Not Together, starring David McSavage and special guest Paddy Cusack, a.k.a. Pete Briquette.
Pete Briquette and my young prince, Daniel. Someday, this estate will be yours. I'm like, a member of the Guinness family. And actually, I was telling that story when we were at a book launch. Do you remember that time one of your mates...
Mark
had published a book.
That's right, yeah.
And people were chatting after the speech or whatever.
Yeah.
And so this guy was saying, where are you from? And you were saying, oh, Valley James Duff, like Valley James Duff. And then we asked him, where are you from? And he said, do you remember what he said?
No.
Family. So he was a member of the Guinness family. So he wasn't even from a fucking town or a village. Like his house was a location.
Was it? Yeah.
And then we were going, huh? Where? And then he said, family. I don't really do the whole kind of pleb thing of living in a village. So he was so rich and from such a wealthy family that he kind of lived outside of what
of the norm.
Of what normal poor people live in society, like little houses and villages. And I'd like to be able to say, where do you live?
You're somewhere in between, aren't you? You're sort of halfway, like between being poor and being mega rich. You're about in the middle.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Jeez, mega. What is mega rich?
Mega rich is like Trump.
Oh yeah. I suppose we would be, wouldn't we?
Yeah, so we'd be somewhere.
Well, you're probably.
So, I mean,
you're richer.
To a lot of people, you'd be very rich.
Well, you own your own house, don't you?
I own my own house.
So you're a lot richer than me.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird. Like so this is Pete Briquette, but born Paddy Cusack and born in Ballyjames. You see, it's weird being formally introducing my own uncle.
I suppose you should come out about this, that actually I'm your uncle.
come out of the closet.
Maybe a wrong turn of phrase there.
So this is my mother's brother. Were you called? You were the youngest of the family.
Yeah, I was.
And
by far.
Were you always called Paddy?
I was always called Paddy as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I grew up, and then I became Pat when I was at school up here in Dublin, and then when I joined the band, I became Pete.
Okay, so we have to. So Pete Briquette is a founding member of the Boomtown Rats. Which is an Irish rock new wave band formed in Dublin in 1975.
I know, yeah.
1975.
Yeah.
They had a series of Irish and UK hits, including Like Clockwork. I was going to like Cockwork. Rat Trap, I Don't Like Mondays, and Banana Republic. And apparently you co-wrote Clockwork, like Clockwork and Banana Republic.
I did, yes.
And my audience would like to know, do you still see residual cash every year?
Residual? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not like I heard when Shane McGowan was alive, Fairy Tale of New York, he'd get like 150 grand a year or something.
Yeah, probably, yeah, something like that. Whereas
but
I don't get that.
Do you think he would have got more than that, no? For a song, for a hit that big that was really played every Christmas, he'd probably get more, I would imagine.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
why don't you know? I thought you were a rock star. You should know all these facts.
Are you going to give me a hard time?
I think you need it. Now the original.
But I can give you a hard time. You know that.
The original lineup comprised of 6 musicians. Well, you see, the reason I'm saying this is because a lot of maybe people watching the show wouldn't know about the Boomtown Rats, would they?
Well, above or below a certain age.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't know.
The original lineup comprised of 6 musicians, 5 from Dunleary, Jerry Cott, Simon Crowe, Johnny Fingers, Bob Geldof, and Gary Roberts.
Yeah.
Which is the lad that died there?
That'd be Gary.
Yeah.
Gary died about a year ago.
And plus Johnny Finger's cousin Pete Briquette,
That's right.
who came from Ballyjanesduff, County Cavan. Did you have a Cavan accent when you were growing up?
I did have a Cavan
I suppose you still
accent
have
when
it,
I was
yeah.
small, but I don't have it anymore. Like I don't think so.
There'd be a vague kind
I
of.
suppose if I went back there, within a couple of days, I'd probably be.
I think my mother lost her accent on her way down to Dublin. You know, she got rid
did.
of it because we were kind of a bit
You
ashamed
didn't
of
go
her.
down to Dublin. You went up to Dublin.
You went up to Dublin. We were kind of a bit ashamed of our rural roots, weren't we?
You were. I wasn't.
Were you never?
No, not really. Actually, no. I mean, yeah. To be honest with you, no. I was never. I was aware of them, like when I came up to Dublin, and I was aware of people like discriminating, like against me, like because I was a culture. Absolutely, but
Did you? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And did you not?
completely.
Did you kind of not give a fuck or something?
No, it annoyed me. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When the people would do your accent.
Well, do your accent and think you're a bit thick because you're from the country, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember. I mean, I talk about this in my act. You know, I was a little snobby little shit when I was a kid, and when you would hear, not like I had a fucking ideology, but just a sort of visceral reaction to people and how they spoke from the country. It to me, it sounded very wild and feral.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know the way that all, you know, and they just mangle words, and it was almost like, Jesus Christ, what's wrong with these people? I would have thought they were a bit mentally not right, you know, and that's kind of, isn't it, a real snobbery?
Or it's not understanding very well.
But even the way Irish, like if you looked at RT back in the day, you would never hear regional accents on the TV.
With the BBC in the UK, like, you only heard like the perceived like BBC accent, like right up until the mid 70s, really.
Yeah, and then sort of Channel 4 came along and they brought in people who talk like
People
that.
from the north. Yeah.
So now, you know, we're older and we're not ashamed of our ruralness. We embrace it. Isn't it, Daniel?
Yeah.
Well, I know, but it's quite a myopic, is it, or introspective or snobbish way. You know, it discounts a lot of people, and just because of how people talk doesn't have any relationship to their intelligence or creativity or anything like that. So you were friendly with your cousin Johnny Moylet, aka Johnny Fingers, and did he get you into the band?
No. It was Jerry Cott was my mate.
Okay.
And we were forming a band together, and Johnny and Gary were forming a band.
Johnny Fingers and Gary.
Yeah, and I met Johnny through architecture. So then we got together. So then it was a foursome sort of.
Oh, that's right.
From that, the band formed.
Okay, sorry, yeah, just a little bit of background. So you were, I think, so when the Rats formed, then I would have been, because I was born in 66, so I would have been about 10 or 11, and you were, I think, living with us.
I was,
in Oakley Grove.
I was, yeah.
For about a year, maybe.
For a year at least, like maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
I was at college up here.
Yeah, studying architecture.
Studied architecture,
yeah. Yeah.
And then we left that. So the band came out of architectural college, really. Although Bob was sort of I'm a journalist, and Simon was an art student.
Yeah.
But the rest of us were architectural students.
Yeah.
Like, Jerry and myself and Johnny.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all boring.
Well,
really.
it isn't. It's your life, you know. Yeah. And at that time, I mean, think of the amount of people who I tried to start a band. When I was 17 or 18, it was called the Pelvic Push Buttons, and I mean it was a load of shite. We didn't have any kind of vision.
Did you play a gig? I mean,
we played a few gigs, but think of the thousands of people who started bands and never fucking got anywhere.
Yeah.
So I mean, the fact that you got anywhere is a very rare, like it's a 1 in 10,000 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So those two guys, so these two separate entities wanted to form a band, then you got together.
And then we got together, yeah.
And so where did Bob Geldof come into the mix?
Then Bob came in through Johnny, and I think Johnny's brother, Pat.
Yeah.
And he initially came in as the manager of the band.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And at that stage I had left the band because I was taking a year out of college, and I was going to go to Iran to like as a draftsman. Like we earned shitloads of money, so I was going to do that for 6 months.
Okay.
And earn a load of money. So I kind of left the band, leaving at that early stage, and I was going to go to Iran. But then the whole Iran thing collapsed on me.
That's right. The Shah of
And
Iran.
then about 6 months later, like the whole like Shah thing happened. But so it was lucky I didn't go. But then so I came back like rather meekly, like on.
Came back from
No, not from Iran. I mean, I never went to Iran, but I came back like to rehearsals and said, "Can I still be in the band?"
Yeah. And at this point now, where is the band at?
Still rehearsing.
Never done a
Still
gig.
not knowing what they're going to do. Yeah, that sort of thing. But Bob was now the lead singer when I came back,
Okay.
and they needed a bass player.
Yeah.
So I said, "Hey, I'll be the bass player."
And had you played bass
I never even touched a bass
or a guitar?
physically. No, I played loads of guitar, but I never physically touched a bass.
Okay.
guitar. So
Yeah.
I said, "Sure, I'll play bass."
And this was 75.
74, 75, yeah.
Yeah. So how many? What were we going to say, Daniel?
Just the transition from guitar to bass, was that like difficult or was?
Well, I was crap at both. The transition was easy, really.
So, and where were you rehearsing?
In Bob's garage in the back of his garden. In Clyde Road.
In his dad's place? Dad and
No,
Mom's?
no, in his flat. Like he was in a flat in Clyde Road.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Because I do have memories of a van pulling up outside the house and you being picked up.
Probably, yeah, to do a gig.
And I think, me and we were all kids and we look inside the van. Geldof is there, fuck off, or something, and that's about it. Thinking he was very funny. Right, so you're rehearsing away. And where was your first gig?
First gig was in Architectural College in Bolt Street. And we started off the gig as it's the Nightlife Thugs.
Oh, really? So it wasn't the Boomtown Rats yet?
And then halfway through, a Gelda put up on the board the Boomtown Rats, and we became the Boomtown Rats halfway through the gig.
By the way, we can cut this out, right?
Yeah. I'll talk about anything, David. No. I literally talk about
I just want to address, and in a way that doesn't piss you off, your well, how did we call it back in the day? Stammer?
A stammer,
Was it called a stammer?
A stammer, yeah. I mean, it's always called a stammer to me.
And so, but it was more pronounced back then, was it?
It was. I mean, it comes and goes. Like, it depends on how stressed I am,
or
my
tired
state of mind, or tired, or all that sort of thing. And also, I stammer to particular people for like some reason.
Go on.
I mean, it's purely like a psychological thing. So it can come and go. It can manifest itself in all like different ways. I'm beginning to sound like Joe Biden now.
but Paddy or Pete's Paddy. Yeah. So were you? Did that make you feel? Did that make you feel insecure as a kid, growing up, or in the band, or whatever, or
Yes, it did. It made me stop wanting to do certain things if I had to speak in public in any way. So I used to fancy that I might like to be an actor, but I knew. It wasn't an option, so I never even pursued it. Now I would have made a crap actor, but like that kind of thing. And also, people perceive people with stammers, if they're quite bad, as being stupid,
right?
And I always found that difficult,
right?
Yeah,
right. So when you were meeting new people, I see what you're saying. So obviously it's psychological, and then so you're about to meet somebody new,
yeah.
And you know that they don't know that you don't have this kind of thing going on, and then that makes you self-conscious and makes you possibly.
Yeah, your brain races ahead. Or I used to have problems like on the phone, like if I was making a phone call and I had to ring like a support thing or something like that, and I knew I'm going to stammer here. I know I'm going to stammer here.
Yeah,
and then I would.
So what are if a young kid has like a really strong. Well, what's the condition called? Is it just
stammer?
Stammer, okay. Who's the politician? Stammer. What's his name? The MP.
Keir Starmer.
Starmer.
Keir Starmer, yeah.
It sounds like.
That's nothing to do with.
Sounds like.
Are you trying to make a joke?
I don't know. It sounds like Stammer. Daniel. Daniel.
Yeah. Okay, Keir Starmer.
Go on.
Thank you.
Quick with it. But what do people do now? They go to speech therapists.
I have no idea.
Oh, you don't know.
I have no idea what happens because I never particularly did anything. So I don't know if the ways of getting around it or not.
Yeah.
But people seem to still have them, so I don't know.
Yeah. Or did you think there's more of it? Was there more of it back in the day? You know,
I don't know. I really don't know.
Do people not?
I've
do
done
people
no research on
Do
it.
people not all meet with each other?
No, we
Is there
don't
an annual
all meet
meeting
together.
Hello, everyone.
I tell you what I didn't like. I always didn't like is people making fun of it. So there used to be a program on TV called Late Night something, like it was a comedy thing.
Wasn't
like
the Ronnie?
guy,
But do you remember Ronnie Barker?
Yeah, and the minute that would come on the TV, I would turn it off immediately.
Yeah.
'Cause I hated it.
Yeah.
So
because it was
things like that I would
it was
hate.
using for just purely comic effect.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily what he was saying was funny. It was just because of his inability to pronounce the word. Yeah.
Well, it was make it into a comedy thing.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine, you wanted to say something like serious, and people start laughing at you. So
when you were a kid, did people slag you off with that? Yeah, of course they would have.
or they would laugh or slag you off or something. Yeah.
Because certainly, I went to Clongowes College when I was about 13. I mean, the kids were fucking vicious. Like they'd they're like velociraptors honing in on any fucking weakness.
Yeah,
So with
absolutely.
you, they'd be just
Well,
standing. Sorry.
On that,
No, I remember there was a guy called. Well, I'm afraid to almost say his name. But they just started. I remember kids. He had a name that we called him a dog or something. His name was similar to a dog, and we were just barking at him every time we'd see him.
Yeah.
And I remember him like on the ground, like bawling his eyes out, and everybody barking at him.
Oh, I know.
Fucking
vicious. I mean, I can
vicious
remember
cunts. I mean, little
vicious,
8, 9, or 13-year-old kid.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there was a gay guy in my school, and we called him Granny.
Yeah.
And referred to him as she.
Right.
Not in a trans way.
Yeah.
And he had a vicious time.
Yeah.
And I remember about a year after leaving that boarding school, getting a bus in Dublin, and I went up to the top part of the bus, and he was sitting there, and I went and I sat beside him, and I chatted with him.
Yeah.
And I said, like, how are you? He said, well, I had a mental breakdown after I left that school.
Right.
And I felt so. I mean, I never particularly gave him a hard time, I got to say, but they gave him such a horrible time.
Yeah.
And the guy had,
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, it's horrible.
he was gay. That's what he was.
But I was a little bully. I bullied my brothers. I've only got one. And I do kind of carry the way you almost don't want to.
Oh, well, he doesn't, I don't think.
No, but what I'm saying is, Paddy, you just feel like when you think about it, you just felt I was really such a cunt,
Yeah.
and it's kind of hard to sort of. Well, no, it's not. I mean, that's what they say in AA. The fourth step is you clean, you make amendments make amends where it's possible.
Yeah.
So but Barry, I'm really sorry for being a total cunt to you when I was a kid.
Have you ever said that to him?
I don't know, but I'm saying it now.
You should actually.
But this is one step. But then again, Barry did have the love of the father.
He did.
So that was
I know.
So there was a good
history. Absolutely, I'm completely with you. You didn't fit. You didn't fit, David.
Well, I have to say, Paddy, you've been always very, very, very supportive of me, and I appreciate that. Yeah. What was amazing was, as kids, 12, 13-year-olds, so we'd known you were living in the house, and you're going out practicing, rehearsing. This is from our POV as kids.
Yeah.
And in a very short space of time, you seem to be doing like gigs, and suddenly, you were on the TV, and you were on the charts. Now, back then, there was no internet. It's hard for people to realize, this is 2025, there's no internet, no mobile phones. Like, the only avenue to getting mass sort of saturation was on the television,
or the radio.
The television or the radio.
Yeah.
And Top of the Pops was it.
It was it, yes.
It was it, you know what I mean? And do you have any good Jimmy Savile stories? Okay, no, you probably do, actually. I mean, sorry,
Don't
no.
accept,
Okay.
He looked like a creep then, and we avoided him.
He did look like a fucking.
He did, yeah.
I mean, if you can you just dress somebody up to look like a paedophile? That was it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But that was the sad thing. As kids, we enjoyed his thing and we enjoyed his vibe. But it's almost like that part of his childhood is kind of stolen by his reprehensible disgustingness.
Yeah.
But so, like, how quick was it from first gig in Bolton Street to getting over to the UK and hitting the charts?
It was about a year.
Wow, very quick, huh?
Yeah.
So how was it so quick?
Because
what the
we gigged
fuck?
a lot in Ireland,
Right.
And then we started doing this thing in Moran's Hotel, like every month. We're playing a gig, and then that began to be stuffed with punters with the queues around the corner. And so at that stage, we got a manager. It was all very quick, and we went with demos over to England. It was very good timing because it was at the time where all these record companies had made a shitload of money out of the big mega bands like Yes and David Bowie and the Glam thing, and they had a lot of money and they wanted to sign all the new bands. We were one of the many bands that were signed.
Yeah, well, hang on a second now. You said there was like queues around the corner. Like how did the sort of the chemistry of the band, like how did that kind of become good enough where people were queuing around the corner?
Well, very, very
like,
old-fashioned things like posters.
Go on. But that's marketing. I'm talking about the actual music and who decided what direction you were going musically?
Well, when we started rehearsing, we listened to Dr. Feelgood, like.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
And we loved Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah.
We listened to Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Yeah.
We listened to Eric Clapton.
Yeah.
And things like that. And Bowie. So we based it on that, like as a background, and then we actually did, like, we copied like a Dr. Feelgood album, like track for track, and we learned it, and we learned as many as the Bob Marley songs as we could, but they were always a little bit out of our league for various cultural reasons.
Oh, right.
And so that's where we started as like an R&B band that played like Dr. Feelgood songs.
Okay, so like, and musically, when the band like who are the driving forces musically? Like who when you started actually writing songs, because musically those songs are kind of very well structured and very well played. I mean,
so we were playing covers.
Oh yeah,
I see.
Then
it was becoming to the point where, in fact, I said to Bob, we need to write songs.
Oh, I see.
And he kind of said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then we started with a song called "Do the Rat," which was actually the first song.
Oh, which had a dance attached to it as well.
Yeah.
Which when you think about it, if you think about what's that, Gangnam Style.
Yeah.
Like if you want something to go kind of well, it's funny, if there was social media back then, maybe that's the kind of thing. Do the Rat, Gangnam Style, because it had a whole kind of ecosystem surrounding it, i.e., a look, a dance, and the song.
Yeah.
And so it's like lightning in a bottle kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Do the Rat. Yeah. I remember seeing some documentaries and seeing kids doing the rat. Is it type of dance or something?
Well, I mean, it's a pretend dance.
Yeah, right. So then queues around the corner, Moran's Hotel. Yeah. Then you'd go over to the UK.
Then we had all the record companies coming over to see us. We'd Virgin Records, we'd Island Records, we'd Phonogram Records, all came to see us on one weekend in Moran's Hotel. So they all appeared.
And what was that like for you guys, knowing that all these people were coming?
We began to get a little excited at that stage. And we knew, because these record companies didn't know that, like, each one was coming. So they all appeared there, and then suddenly, like, the guy from Virgin saw the guy from Ireland.
Oh, right.
So bidding war quickly happened.
Right.
And so we got a really big deal out of Phonogram.
Well, and so were you ringing home and telling your sisters or your brothers? Or
my unimpressed family
were you?
Yeah.
Were you ringing back and saying, "Hey, this happened and this happened," but they weren't that?
Yeah, exactly. They didn't want to know, really. They thought it was all going to end in about 6 months, which was a fair enough attitude to take.
Yeah. So you got signed by Phonogram, right? And then what happened, sir?
Then what happened, we all moved over to England, and we all moved into a big house in Chessington.
All together?
All together.
Fucking hell.
Like the monkeys.
Yeah.
And it was a massive house, and we all lived in the house, and then we wrote more there. We prepared the first album there. Then we were introduced to Mutt Lange, who was the producer.
Mutt Lange, who produced Looks Like a Woman.
Yeah.
What's that one? What's your name, Daniel?
The country singer.
What's her name, Daniel?
And he married her as well.
Yeah. You know that.
I feel like a woman.
Yeah, I feel like a woman.
Her.
What's her name? Sorry, we can't move on until we find out her name. It's really bad. Clarence Claiborne. No. Jessica Lange.
Shania Twain.
Clarence Claiborne.
Shania.
Yeah, so Mutt Lang had sex
Foreigner.
with
Yes.
what's her name?
Twain.
Shania Twain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So he's a great producer, obviously.
He was a great producer. Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So you got like the best on board, and but musically, who do you think, apart from yourself, obviously, was there kind of people in the band you thought, well, wow, that's a great idea? They always seem to come up with great ideas, or they had a sort of sense of the architectural.
The driving force from day one in the Boomtown Rats was Bob Geldof.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to pretend like we were all, equal.
Yeah.
But we weren't. I mean, he was the guy like with the vision of like what it should be, how we should do it, that sort of thing, and we went along with that, and it worked. It made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was that? Was there any moment when he was talking to the lads where you thought, oh, we get it, we see what was the, maybe that's why a lot of bands don't get to where they think they should be, because it's the simple question, well, who are you? Yeah. What do you want? And how are you going to get it? So he kind of knew what
he kind of knew what he wanted. He suggested a Dr. Feelgood, like he played that album to us. We thought, this is fucking great.
Right.
We love this.
Yeah.
So we enthusiastically played along, and we learned this album, for starters. So that's how it kind of started, musically.
Because I've heard writers doing that where they really like on the road, and they just write. They just write this thing just to try and get into to get themselves into the ability to write. So you were doing that with that album.
Yeah.
So so what was the first album called?
The Boomtown Rats.
The Boomtown Rats. And how did you come up with that name?
Because by tradition in bands, their first album would always be called the name of the band, and that's it.
And so how quickly did you get onto the charts when that was released?
Because the first single release, which was Looking After Number One, and that initially broke in Scotland.
Okay.
It became a hit in Scotland, and then it spread to the rest of the UK, and then we got onto Top of the Pops, and once you get onto Top of the Pops, your chart position is going to go up by at least 10.
Right.
And so that first song went to number 16 or something like that in the charts.
Yeah, and right, and then what was the one that knocked John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John? Rat Trap, was it?
Rat Trap, yeah. So Rat Trap was the first number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big moment.
Was that on that album? No.
No, that was on the second album.
The second album, right. So
there were quite a few hits on the first album, there were top 20 hits.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think so we were sitting in Oakley Grove watching Top of the Pops, and we saw you going up the charts. But that definitely, that moment when Rat Trap hit number one, I mean, you're tracking its rise, and you just can't believe it. And 3 weeks before it's at that number, then 2 weeks, and then it's going to hit number one. And then it hit number one, and I think Geldof came on. He had a picture of John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. He ripped up
it up, yeah.
And also, I mean, back in the day, internationally, Ireland didn't have much to shout out about. No. So it was a big deal.
It was a big deal, very, very big deal. So when we got to number one, I was actually in Ballyjamestuff.
Oh yeah,
I was on a little holiday there.
Yeah,
and I knew the chart positions that were coming in, so I had to go to the local hotel. Yeah, and literally ring the phone and ring London. Hello, London, calling.
Okay.
And I found out the chart position like that.
Oh,
and
brilliant.
so I was in Ballyjamestuff as we got to number one.
Amazing.
Which was great, yeah.
And so what was it like? Did people know that you were in the Boomtown Rats in Ballyjamestuff, and they were congratulating you?
They were catching up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I remember it well. And then when I was about 13, I went to Clongowes Wood College, which I didn't like, but you were very kind and you gave me loads of Boomtown Rats posters signed.
Did I?
Yeah, signed by the band.
And you sold them.
And I might have sold one or two, but I was trying. It was kind of good in the sense that I was trying to get popularity, but they didn't like me in Clongowes Wood, but it was very nice of you to do that. Very decent. It made me popular for about 2 minutes in that shitty little secondary school. Yeah. Right. So, and then the other bit. I mean, so was that there was another number one? No, that was it.
Mondays was number one.
No, I Don't Like Mondays was number one.
Yeah.
What year?
Clockwork was number 4.
Yeah.
The Banana Republic was number 4. Number 3, number 4.
When were the Boomtown Rats the biggest? Like when did the crest of the wave? You know, what do you reckon? What year?
Mondays was the biggest. Yeah.
So what year? And that was big in the States, wasn't it? Or no? No. You didn't break the States.
We didn't break the States.
Did you try to?
We tried to, yeah.
How many times?
But we were banned in America
because of that song.
Because of that song, yeah. We weren't prepared to go to. I mean, in those days, you had to go to America and you had to tour America. And America is a massive place. So you had to spend like 6 months continually touring.
Yeah.
And we just weren't prepared to do that. So we went over on shorter tours.
Yeah.
But we weren't committed enough, I think, to break America. And then when they banned I Don't Like Mondays.
So can you, to people who wouldn't know, so the song is about?
A girl called Brenda Spencer who shot up a school one Monday morning, and she lived opposite the school. And while she was doing it, I think a journalist rang her and said, like, "Why are you doing this?" And she said, "I don't like Mondays."
Right. And so the song comes out, and so it's in very bad
school
taste.
Shootings were really rare, like in America.
Okay.
Like absolutely rare. Like so, like it was a very big deal in America at the time.
God, Paddy, as you're saying, they were really rare. They should be non-existent.
But they're not rare anymore. They're
but
a
I mean,
weekly event now.
But it's like, if I was living in a society, I mean, if I had the power and I was running the society, and I heard that people go into a school, like I'd put the whole society into lockdown in the same way we did with COVID, and I don't know. Like you'd go.
You give them more guns. That's what you do. You give them more.
No, but you'd go door to door and you just remove all. I mean, you can't with children being shot. That's it. Game over. This society isn't working anymore. Stop. And then so like you say, it happens with such frequency that it has its own phrase, like school shootings. What? I mean, so it almost be people are slightly would it be fair to say people are desensitized to it?
Desensitized, and the right to bear arms trumps everything else.
But that trumps, yeah. But I think the right to bear arms made sense early on in the foundation of the state. But now it's not necessary, surely.
I mean, America is a very sick society now.
Yeah, parts of it are.
Really,
yeah. I lived in the United States. I liked it.
I liked it as well.
Yeah.
My daughter's there at the moment.
Okay.
On her honeymoon. So,
very nice. How long is she going to be on her honeymoon?
She's on a road trip, so it's 2.5 months.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely, yeah.
Lovely.
I'm jealous.
I'm jealous. I'm riddled with jealousy. Raging Irish jealousy. So that the actual song got fucking banned. I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not going to help your,
So all the radio stations threw it in the bin, basically.
Yeah. Great song. And then the other big, massive milestone, definitely people of my generation will remember Live Aid.
Yeah.
Which was 1985. And what was extraordinary about that was how Geldof changed from this kind of, pop star into a kind of a statesman almost. But I remember, 1985, I was 19, and these dreadful, horrific images of children in the last stages of starvation. Mm-hmm. And this report by a guy called Michael Burke, BBC reporter, and there was a moment where I thought, it's why should we have we shouldn't have starvation, especially kids shouldn't, and we're all sitting over here eating. This is crazy, right? And so there was a moment where we thought world hunger, we were going to stop it. That's how it felt.
When the documentary that was broadcast, I was at home in my flat in London. I was sitting there, I listened to this, I see this documentary. I thought in my complete naivety that world hunger was a thing in the past, it had been solved, and civilization had moved on. In my absolute ignorance. Yeah. And so when people saw this, they were completely and utterly shocked. So when I saw that, I remember thinking, and I paced up and down the room. I said, I'll ring Bob, and we can do something, we have to do something. And I said, I can't, it's 10 o'clock at night, I can't fucking ring him and start ranting about a documentary. So I didn't, so I rang him the following morning.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm already on it.
Okay.
Which was great. And so
Yeah.
he went straight, like next day, like to organising like something.
Right.
Which was the Band-Aid record.
Which was the Band-Aid record.
Yeah.
And so, like, what are your recollections of that time? Like, were you surprised? Like, how it sort of brought the world together temporarily for.
Yes, I mean, it was an amazing moment, like the whole thing of Live Aid and Band-Aid, that it did bring the whole world together in one big jukebox.
Yeah, and there was a very clear goal.
There was,
and everybody was on board.
Yeah.
Everybody knew what. It wasn't kind of like, what are we doing here? What, like, everybody
It was very clear. You got the biggest acts.
Yeah.
Of the day.
Yeah.
Play to get the maximum effect and the maximum amount of money to solve an immediate problem.
Yeah.
Which was people like physically dying. So we had to
because of starvation.
Because of starvation. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the memory of Band-Aid and Live Aid? Like, what do you?
Well, Band-Aid, I remember Bob rang me a couple of days before and said, head down to Storm Studios. I think it was on a Sunday, and they were doing the record. So I was there like at about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Because I knew this was going to be something special. Like, I knew it was something. So I arrived. I went into Storm. There's nobody there particularly, and then Sting arrived.
Right.
And he came in. And I remember he came up, and I was at a coffee bar sort of in the studio, and he came up and he sat there, and he said, "What's happening?" I said, "I don't know." So
the feeling was people. So that's how powerful the effect of that documentary or that report.
Yes,
it really like shocked people to the point where everybody's so that he's just arrived and he doesn't know what to do, but he wants to do something.
I'd say it's the first time that Sting has ever arrived in the studio, not knowing who the producer is, not knowing what the song is, not having a fucking clue what's going to happen, but was prepared to just pitch up, and whatever happens.
Right.
So that represents like everybody else then, like for the rest of the day, like did the same thing.
Right.
And of course, like later on in the day, like there's loads of people there. There was fans outside, screaming. There was like Duran and Spandau, who were kind of at the height of their thing at that stage. And I always remember there was this like side door, like up a little stairs in the studio, and a couple of the Durans wandered up the stairs and opened the door, and there was a load of fans out there, and the fans, big scream, and they went out there and they signed the autographs and came back in, and I watched, and Spandau were at the other side of the room, and they were like watching this. So about 5 minutes later, the Spandau sort of wander over to this door and open the door. To get their hit of...
To get their little hit of validation.
Yeah.
I certainly know exactly what that's all about because I love it as well.
So do I. I
validation.
love a bit of adoration myself.
So, and how long after the Band-Aid record did Live Aid happen?
It happened... Band-Aid happened in like Christmas 84 into 85, and then and then Band-Aid, and then Live Aid happened in July 13th.
So there are a few documentaries around Live Aid, but logistically, was it a massively complicated affair?
Massively complicated. It would never have been done before.
Which never
of this worldwide like jukebox of everybody.
So these simultaneous concerts in big stadiums.
Yes.
So one was in Philadelphia. And one was in Wembley.
And one was in Wembley.
And that was
it. There are also other ones in other places.
In Ballyjames now. Paddy McGinty was playing his ukulele in the back garden. But actually, the response financially, I think Ireland gave most per capita.
Of course.
I
would expect them to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, but it just shows you that I think that made us. We were very proud of that. The Irish.
Ireland gives the most per capita today.
Does
in
it?
The world. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So, what were the big? So the big challenges were what exactly? Just the satellite link-ups
but that could have fallen apart because nobody had a script, nobody had a timetable of like what was going to happen.
What do you mean nobody had a timetable?
Well, you know, like
you had
if you have a big day-long thing, you have a whole like.
These are playing here.
Like 2 o'clock. This is.
Well, people would have had to know when they were supposed to be on stage.
Roughly. Yeah. But it was chaos. It was absolute chaos. But yet it worked. I don't know how the hell it worked.
And who was the guy that was overseeing it all? Was it Bob and
well, the live
Harvey?
thing was Harvey.
Yeah.
And then the BBC was by the BBC.
Right.
And but it just fell together. I mean,
It fell together.
It fell together,
and it could have easily not
it
fallen.
Could have fallen apart. So
what, like what?
well,
just
all the links could have fallen apart.
Right, or it could have started raining.
It could have started raining, and it could have.
Just so much stuff. I mean, the tech side of things.
Stuff was really basic still at that stage. So the tech stuff was like cutting edge.
Yeah.
All them. So it really was dangerous, the whole thing. But it did work, and it did amazingly work. I mean, I always remember myself and Simon and I think Johnny and Jerry and Bob, we got a helicopter from Battersea with Noel Edmonds piloted it, and that brought us over Wembley like on the morning of it, and coming in on the helicopter, and we saw like an empty Wembley, and then all these fans are like running forward.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was just, and I remember thinking, this is going to be a day.
This is going to be a day.
I am going to remember this for the rest of my life.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. So, what were the kind of moments that stick out then on that particular day? Apart from that,
McCartney.
Right.
McCartney singing.
Go on.
Because he hadn't, like, it was the first time he'd gigged like since the Beatles, since Wings, let's say.
So how long would that have been? 10 years or? Yeah,
at least that.
10, so he was probably shitting himself.
He shitting himself. He was going to play on the piano, and he was going to play Let It Be on the piano. So he was doing that before the finale, like, which was Feed the World, like with everybody singing.
So when did he arrive on?
Oh, I don't know when he arrived.
Okay.
But when he was going to go on, I remember like we all knew he was going to go on, so we all rushed like to the side of the stage, like so we could get a good view of McCartney. And so Bob and the band and various other people were on one side of the stage, and I thought I'd be really smart. I'd run around the other side, the back of the stage, and I'd go to the other side so I have a direct view of McCartney on the piano and I can watch him, which worked because it was only me and about two other people just watching from the. And as I was watching, I could see Bob and the others on the other side, and I could see Bob shouting and his arms. I thought, what the fuck's going on there? So when I went back round, and he said, "Where the fuck were you?" I said, "What do you mean I was on the other side?" He didn't know where I was, and we were on next doing the Live Aid thing.
What do you mean you were on after McCartney?
Yeah, doing the
doing
the World.
Oh yeah.
The Feed the World
gotcha,
thing was us playing and everybody playing. So we were on and like directly after McCartney.
Right.
So Bob was absolutely panicking because I suddenly disappeared.
Gotcha.
To him.
Yeah,
but if I'd done was I'd run like, to the other side of the stage. So also.
How did the McCartney song go? Let It Be.
Well, he had technical problems and his voice disappeared. I mean, the mic disappeared about halfway through it, but he kept going. It was fine. It was great.
Yeah.
It was
it didn't matter. It's not about that.
Yeah. And how.
Well, the big thing from '85, the band that really did well was Queen, wasn't it?
Queen and U2.
And I remember that at the time, like Queen came on because they would have been a stadium act anyway at that point.
Yeah, and they were about to split up basically.
Oh, they're on the bit burnt out.
They were burnt out completely, and they even didn't really want to do this, like, because they were burnt out. But they decided Freddie wanted to do it,
and he ripped the arse out of the place.
He ripped the arse out. They were Quo were great.
Yeah,
I mean Quo started it, and they were brilliant. They sang "Rockin' All Over the World," which is a brilliant song, like to start the whole thing. But it just kept falling together. I mean, even when like about an hour before we were doing the finale. Bob says to Simon and me, he gives the words to Feed the World. He says, "Go into the Hard Rock Cafe." There was a Hard Rock Cafe in the backstage area, and assemble everybody there and give people, let people know who's going to sing each line. Mm-hmm. So Simon said, "Yeah, okay." So myself and Simon went into the Hard Rock Cafe, and everybody was assembled. So we're standing
like we can name the people.
So we're standing there, and there's Freddie, Sting, Elton John, George Michael, all like standing. Bowie saying, "Okay," and some Mr. Bowie, could you sing the first line? And George, would you mind doing the third? And there was okay.
I think the vibe. It was a really good kind kind of zero ego kind of feeling to the thing, to the gig.
Yes, yeah, zero ego. Absolutely.
But that particular performance of Queen, you know, they come on and it's Queen, it's all fine, and I think the light was starting to go down, so you know the effect of the lights was better. And
but there was Radio Gaga,
and they did. Well, they did. There was one song I think that just the way he corralled the audience and just made them into one entity. And they did things like you know, where he does the callback, where he sings and they call back, and he just kind of the audience came more and more and more together, and there was just this like. You know,
Freddie loves the stadium.
Yeah,
I mean that's like he's a pig in shit. Like,
but it makes the hair in your back of your head go up, because just watching that performance, it was fucking amazing, amazing. But and I think you think it gave them a boost, and
absolutely.
A side effect of Live Aid was that certain bands kind of
both U2 and Queen, I think.
Yeah, I think U2, when they did that Wide Awake song, it really, really worked. And it suddenly, people saw them in a different light.
Yeah. But
and then, of course, the whole point of the fucking gig was the money raised. And, you know, like, I mean, people might not know, like, making money is difficult, but giving money is equally difficult. Like, in the sense of giving money in a way that somebody can then benefit and sustain and have a future, you know what I mean, as opposed to just throwing money at some. But sorry,
about halfway through the whole Live Aid thing, money wasn't coming in.
Okay,
it was dropping off.
And
that's when he famously said, like, never mind the fucking addresses or whatever.
Oh, that's right. So there was a moment during Live Aid where Geldof was being interviewed by a BBC reporter.
Yeah. You know, you've got to get on the phone and take the money out of your pocket. Don't go to the pub tonight, please. Stay in and give us the money. There are people dying now, so give me the money. And here's the numbers. And
let's
read
go
about.
Through the way. I think we're probably going to get the address first, aren't we?
No, let's fuck the address. Let's get the numbers, because that's how we're going to get it.
I think we're going to have the address.
Before Bowie went on, they showed the video of Ethiopia with the Cars song.
That's right.
And if you even watch it today, I still get emotional.
Yeah.
Like with that Cars song, which just completely.
I'm going to take you home.
Oh my God. So when that happened, the money just exploded.
Right.
And it just went
ballistic.
Ballistic.
Because people kind of almost temporarily forgot what they were, just looking at the gig. Oh no, actually this is
and I think Bowie wanted that, because that was after Bowie. So after Bowie did his numbers, he did one song less, because he wanted that to be on straight after.
So what about like how many? It did save a lot of lives, you think?
It did, yeah, of course it did. Yeah, it did. And the money did go directly to Ethiopia.
But
we bought our own trucks to make sure it was.
Yeah. Wasn't there some controversy about the money being siphoned off by local warlords in Ethiopia and all that kind of stuff? Which I assume.
All bollocks.
You think it was?
There might have been a bit of siphoning off, like of course, like there will be, but it was minimal. You know.
Yeah.
So the final finale was everybody on stage. Singing that song, and I remixed that recently because it had never been mixed. Like the audio like that had never been mixed. So about 6 months ago I decided to remix the thing. So as I was mixing it, I was watching in great detail like the actual visuals as well, and it's really interesting to watch because there were 3 vocal mics really, and people had to make sure they got the mic to sing their song. And the biggest line, the most controversial line in the song is, "Thank God it's not."
Yeah, it's them instead of you. Yeah.
And when Bono sings that line, the entire Wembley sings it with him.
Okay.
It's if you go back and watch it on YouTube, you hear the entire line.
Yeah.
And about 20 seconds before that, and there's a shot of Tony Hadley grabbing one of the mics to sing, and you never see him again. So I never quite know what happened there.
Oh.
And because it was interesting that the B-list artists were sort of pushing forward, and the more polite A-lists were being pushed back a bit. So Elton and Freddie and the were all too polite. Like we're sort of like being elbowed.
Yeah,
like,
right.
By the people who kind of wanted to.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did see Geldof then subsequently going to Ethiopia and trying to follow
Which he
the.
really didn't want to do. It saved an immediate problem.
Yeah.
Like people were dying.
Yeah.
It alleviated that problem, and then there was also like a long-term thing that became the Band-Aid Trust and the Live Aid Trust, and that has continued like to this day.
Like almost an emergency response to
that was
any,
an emergency response. Right? That was nothing else than an emergency response that people needed food like today, like that kind of thing. And then because of the enormous success of it, it then became a trust that has continued.
Okay,
like to this day.
And do we know what was the figure that was raised?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know.
I mean, you're going to ask me that.
When did the Boomtown Rats break up?
They broke up at a thing called Self-Aid, which was over here in Dublin.
Oh, you mean there was an actual moment they broke up?
Well, that was our last gig.
Oh, it wasn't. You did a gig and then you said fuck off. It wasn't a big argument. You'd known that.
No, we had come to a natural end. Like
and was it a surprise when somebody gave you who told you that it was going to break up?
No, it became apparent. We were tired. Like we'd had enough. The Boomtown Rats were from the previous decade at this stage.
Yeah.
So
how long were they together before they broke up? 75 minutes.
We were 10 years together.
Okay, not that
First
long.
time around, 10 years together, but we've been together longer.
This time around.
So, this year we're actually celebrating 50 years of the Boomtown Rats.
So how long did you break up for? You had a trial separation.
About 37 years.
What?
Yeah.
Was it that long?
Yeah.
I didn't realise it.
No.
I didn't realise
47 and then 57. Yeah.
What?
I was just trying to work that. It was 37 years that we broke up, and it was 10 years that we were together. So that's 47 years, and now it's 50, and now it's
So okay. This is annoying the shit out of me. And you went on then to produce people like Johnny Hallyday, isn't that correct?
No.
The French singer.
Yeah. Who is Reno? A guy called Reno, yeah.
I thought you said he was like the French Elvis Presley, or maybe that's Johnny Hallyday.
I said he was the French Bob Dylan.
Oh, French Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
And also
an enormous artist
in France.
Yeah.
And also another guy. What's his name?
Oh, Tricky.
Yeah, Tricky.
Sorry, Tricky.
So you did.
I formed Tricky's band for him.
Right.
He didn't have a band.
How did you meet up with Tricky?
Through his management, I knew really well. Tricky had just done he was just finishing this album called Maxime Quay, and he wanted to start gigging live, so they needed somebody to come in and form a band around him, and also to finish the album. So I finished the album and I formed a band, and then I toured for several years with him.
And you got on well with him, obviously.
Got on really well with him.
I mean, interesting dude. Very kind of out there, isn't he, musically?
Well, he had golden ears, I always said, because he couldn't play an instrument. He couldn't sing. He just rapped a bit. Yeah. But he had just great ears.
Is he still gigging?
Yeah, he's gigging at the moment. Where does he live? He lives in the south of France, I think.
Oh, yeah?
And, yeah. No, he's a good guy.
He's a good dude.
He was in Massive Attack originally.
Oh. Very interesting. And I remember when I'd go over to Paddy, in 1983, when I was 17, 18, and we'd be smoking marijuana.
We would, yeah.
No, I remember one time we went to
you saw your head the first time you arrived, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, no, we went to some Rasta's house, and we were smoking stuff. And I could hardly fucking walk. And then I went into I said goodbye to Paddy. And
what a good uncle I am.
And then I went into this. I went into the underground station, and I'm chemically it doesn't really work. Anyway, I'm sitting in the underground tube, and the way sometimes the tubes stop, and then there was a little announcement. We were arriving in Clusters in 2 minutes. We're just waiting further, and so in my head, I could hear another tube coming, and I thought it was going to crash, And so then the tube passes by, and I just go, it's a freak out, I have a panic attack, and I'm white in the face, and people in the tube are looking at me. So that was it.
And that's all my fault.
That's your fault.
Thank you.
But no, it was a very, very exciting time, you know, when you're that young and, you know, just
Yeah,
grass
it was
and
good
marijuana
time,
and
yeah.
music and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're still, so you're working with the Rats at the moment.
Yeah.
You're doing a few gigs. You're doing a gig tomorrow night, actually.
We're doing a gig tomorrow night here, and we're doing...
Where's the gig tomorrow night? I can't remember.
Rewind here, some festival.
It's some festival.
Yeah.
And you're really excited about it, aren't you?
What?
Very excited about it.
Yes, I am, yeah.
Yeah, no, come on, man. And you're doing
playing,
it all together now.
All together now,
Yeah.
which I'm much more excited about doing, because Fontaine DC are on it.
Yeah.
Who are mates of mine, and the CMAT, and there's...
The CMAT, they're shit. No, I don't know who the CMAT is.
CMAT. You got to check her out.
Oh, her out.
Her, yeah.
Oh, it's just one person.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
It's like laundromat.
She was on Hootenanny with us on my New Year's Eve. We did Hootenanny.
Oh yeah.
Last New Year's Eve.
Oh yeah. So you met her once, and she's suddenly your best fucking friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh right. Okay, that's how it works. But no, I remember I saw Sinead O'Connor actually in.
Lovely Sinead.
Sinead O'Connor in All Together Now, and I'd been drinking like you know, I was 48 hours drinking, you know, and I kind of, you know, I drunk myself into this other reality or whatever. But just seeing like Sinead O'Connor had kind of got her shit together at that time, and she was dressed in an all black kind of leather. She looked like Catwoman, and you know, her face was on stage. I mean, her face, the big screens, and zoomed into her face. And when she sang, like there was a voice that came out of her. I'd say it's similar to Jackson Pollock when, you know, he has these pictures. You know, you don't know what. He has some connection to something, and that's the way it was with Sinead. And I was, all my chakras were open, and I listened to this woman, and I was in floods of tears, man. She got me. She was amazing.
She fancied you big time.
Yeah, I fancied her big time.
Yeah,
we had great times
Is there
together.
anything you want to tell us? Yeah. Come on.
Stop it. But listen, here's the thing. You're going to be gigging tomorrow night, and you know, everything else.
And we're doing a UK tour in the autumn.
Oh yeah,
which is good.
Yeah.
Which is almost sold
what
out
are the
already.
what are the groupies? What I was going to say, what are the groupies like? It's almost sold out already.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a fucking relief, isn't it? So many gigs are there?
About 12.
That's brilliant.
Hammersmith Apollo in London.
Yeah.
And
that holds about
Cambridge.
3,000, doesn't it?
About 4. Yeah.
4,000.
Yeah.
That's great. So you're doing better than
but
me
we
in
can't
terms
get
of...
arrested here in Ireland, though.
Well, you're getting arrested tomorrow night,
Yeah,
and then you're
probably
getting
will.
arrested in... and what about the groupies?
What about the groupies, David?
Hello, I'm a very young girl who's very damaged, and I really like your music.
How do you want me to respond?
I don't know. But it's interesting. How long have you been recording?
1 hour.
Oh, well done. See, we're going to finish up now, Paddy, because I know you're very upset about everything. Your family, your mom and dad, you came from a very musical background.
Yeah.
So your brother Andrew was into jazz. So was your brother Barry.
Yeah.
He was was Barry in a band?
Yeah.
Your eldest,
Barry was in a great band called the Victoria Jazz Band. They were great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mum wrote songs.
And Barry played the trumpet, was it?
Yes.
And Andrew the
Played
piano.
very good piano. Yeah.
Right. And my mother, your sister, played classical piano.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my uncle was a famous conductor.
Michael Bowles.
Yeah.
Did he conduct the RT?
He conducted the RT, and then he went to
Philharmonic Orchestra
to New Zealand. And there's a great YouTube thing of him in New Zealand being introduced like to the new orchestra and doing a rehearsal. Yeah, you should check it out.
Okay, maybe we'll play it at the end there. So that's where I think the musical side of things comes from.
That's where
so you grew up with that, and you'd like every Christmas you'd come up with little kind of musical reviews and stuff like that.
At the performing Cusacks.
And also your dad started the Frolics.
He did, yeah.
And it's still going.
It's still going.
In Ballyjim stuff.
Yeah.
Last thing, right?
Yeah.
What was the high point? Like, what's the most rock and roll thing that happened during, Boomtown Rats? Like, what was the thing that God, oh, wow, this is it. This it doesn't get better than this kind of thing. Was it?
Well, it's really obvious. Live Aid, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, Live Aid. And like that final song, like with everybody on stage, with the Boomtown Rats.
Yeah.
Like being the band, waiting if you know, like the beginning of that song, like it starts like with a bass thing, and then the vocal starts, and it was Bowie who's gonna start the vocal. So I was doing the bass. I was waiting for Bowie to come in. What more do you want? You know.
I was thinking. I was also just last thing. I was thinking. Didn't Geldof manage to get fucking members of Pink Floyd together?
He did
for which
one gig, for Live 8. Which is
how the
thing.
fuck does Geldof do that?
Very clever, really. When he speaks to them individually, and he tells each one like a porky.
Okay, gotcha.
And then it works, yeah.
Because I mean, it's so funny. It's so funny that certain music transcends time. It's just and that some of that Pink Floyd stuff.
Oh,
it sounds so fresh.
It does, yeah.
You know, it's kind of like Kind of Blue, Miles Davis.
Yeah.
It just sounds like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
It's quite extraordinary, isn't it? Do you think there's any songs from Boomtown Rats that feel that way? Do you think? Which one? Rat Trap?
Rat Trap.
Or I Don't Like Mondays?
Yeah.
Very classical
Someone's
kind of rock.
at you.
Kind of classic rock and roll thing.
Yeah.
Paddy, I can tell by your body language and the way you're moving
I'm fine.
No, you're fucking not. You're such a
we do
complete...
another hour.
Nah.
Why don't I interview you, David?
No. Did you see that? Meghan Markle and this other girl, and she was interviewing her, and she said something. Oh no! Anyway, it was so cringy.
Were we cringy? Do you think?
No. It basically. So the interviewer was talking to Megan and said, "So how are you?" And then Megan said, "Well, how are you?" And he said, "Well, I know you're so nice and you want to talk about, but you don't want. I want to talk about you because you're so nice. You don't want to talk." It made me feel very violent. But Paddy Cusack, aka Pete Briquette, thank you very much for your time.
It was an absolute pleasure. David.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you,
Thanks for being a great uncle.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. Daniel, what's your favorite Boomtown Rats song?
I think I don't like Mondays.
You think he thinks he doesn't like Mondays? I think I don't like Mondays. I think I don't like Mondays. The silicon chip inside her head would switch to overload. This is
Somebody
Paddy.
bail me out here, please. Am I in a nightmare? Am I going to wake up?
The silicon chip. There was no silicon chips inside her head. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah.